Hey, what's up everyone, Sangtuary here, and this is a new episode of Spice for Thought, the series where I try to give some strategy tips or make tier lists, something about the game of Dune Imperium, but different from the usual gameplays that I do. So yeah, if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that like button, consider subscribing as well for some more on YouTube, or follow on Twitch for some live streams as well. And yeah, let me know in the comments how you find this episode, and if you have any other ideas about what kind of content I could make for future episodes of Spice for Thought. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright, let's jump straight into this episode 7 of Spice for Thought, where I will be focusing on Immortality. What has changed compared to the base game and the Rise of X expansion, what have we learned so far in like playing it ranked as well, and yeah, overall just trying to give some tips on how I play that game. Doesn't mean it's the only way. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you have any other suggestions, any other tips, or wherever you disagree. I'd be happy to learn about it. So first change I'd like to talk about, and first tips I would like to give, are about the Tlax and the research tracks. Very quickly, for those who might not be aware yet, this is one of the basically changes brought by Immortality, is the research track here and the Tlax track up there. So basically here, whenever you find an icon like this one, a microscope, you can move towards the right hand side of that track. So here then you have a choice between bottom or top. These little green cubes are called specimen and allow you to buy cards from the Tleilaxu Row that we will see later. These scarabs allow you to basically move along this Tlax track here. And once you've reached this, is the genetic marker number 1, allows you to put those Tlax cards on top of your deck. And when you reach the end here, any kind of microscope icon allows you to draw a card. So what I would recommend regarding this is to reach what I call the Tlax friendship. So this point here, basically once you collected 4 scarabs, you get to that VP. If you're the first one to reach this, you also get an extra 2 spice. Might be helpful sometimes, but is often not necessarily the important. The important point is to reach this, because this is a free point. The end of the track obviously also gives you another point, but this is a bit harder to reach, and this will depend on how your deck is built, how your strategy goes. And this is what I would say as well with my second point, is adapt your research to the scarabs. Make sure you get at least this point. It usually goes that direction. It means you usually go bottom here to at least collect that first scarab. Then whether you go down for another scarab or up doesn't change much, because on this track you could then go up for another scarab again, and so on. So adapt your research to the scarabs to make sure you get that. Depends a bit on the cards you bought. Maybe you have other ways of getting scarabs, so you could maybe go the top row, because as I say on that very last point, the top row with those additional research icons that allow you basically to skip a beat each time, this is a much faster route to the end of the track. You don't necessarily need to reach the end of the track, although for some endgame cards it might be helpful, and in some strategies it might make a lot of sense still. But yeah, this is a bit the difference between the top track and the bottom track. Here is the top one. You have 2 of those research icons, meaning you can go a bit faster through that entire track. Personally, I usually like going bottom here to get that first scarab, because it's the safe way. Unless I see a very interesting card where I need quickly specimens, in which case maybe I would go up, but that's very, very rare, to be honest. I usually go bottom here. Usually I go for the trash here, and I go up again for the scarab there. But there's no right or wrong. It's very situational, obviously. One last point I've mentioned here is reaching that first genetic marker can help, because it gives you the flexibility of maybe adding a card on top of your deck. We will see later a couple of those Tlax cards. Some obviously have maybe Spacing Guild access, so putting that on top for your round 7 to ensure you can go highliner can be very useful, and other cards as well. Obviously, the ability of putting cards on top of your deck can help a lot. Second point would be, there are more and better cards. Here I've put 2 cards as an example. Those are not like outstanding cards, but they are very good. But I've put them here to maybe illustrate another point, is the fact that now with those Immortality cards, you have condensed actions thanks to grafting. What is grafting? Grafting is basically that green little box here that forces you, when you play this as an agent card, you need to graft it to another card. So you play 2 cards at once and you combine those icons. So you could go to any of the icons from this card or from the grafted card, and you combine the effect as well. You can use both agent effects in either order you want. So fact is, you can buy more cards, also thanks to the Tlax track that we will see afterwards. There are better cards, so trashing is even more important because it allows you to get to those cards more often, and it allows you maybe to buy more interesting cards in a higher quantity. If you can trash, you can still keep your deck at a reasonable size of 10 to maximum 15 cards, I would say. One last thing is, given those interesting cards, you kind of want to play them as often as possible, so getting an early Swordmaster makes even more sense than before. Obviously, that's most of the focus for everyone, so it's not like novelty to try and get the Swordmaster as early as possible, but with Immortality, it sounds like it got even more important. Now we finally get to the Tleilaxu Row. As you can see, those cards don't have a persuasion cost, but specimens. So here you can trade them for a number of cubes that you set aside, those cubes that we saw before on the research track, for instance. Tleilaxu Row gives you some very interesting cards. I've coupled, I've put a couple here. Gola, for instance, allows you to graft a card and to duplicate the agent box of the other grafted card. So typically, if you graft it to Scientific Breakthrough, once you've reached the end of the research track, you can trash this card for a VP and Gola for a VP as well. So you can trash both and get 2 VPs out of this. This is an insane combo. So that's what I'm saying here is check for combos, might be able to do some very fun and powerful stuff. First thing actually in my list here is, more often than not, sadly, you kind of need to reclaim 4 scarabs. This reclaimed forces is always in the Tleilaxu Row. Basically, the Tleilaxu Row is composed of 3 cards. This one, constantly there, and 2 other cards out of the 18, I think, that there are in total in the Tlax deck. More often than not, sadly, you're not going to buy those very cool cards because it's either too late in the game or they are less cool than the ones I've shown here, and you will just reclaim to get a scarab. This is another way of getting scarabs and making sure you reach that Tleilax friendship, as I was calling it before, to get that first VP on the Tleilaxu Row. Last thing is, keep an eye out on those alternative scarabs. I've put the 2 examples here. Subject X137, sorry, allows you to actually only cost 2 specimens, so cheaper than this, but gives you a scarab on purchase already. Might also allow you to get some more when you play it. Sounds like a better deal than reclaimed forces if you can get it. Unless you don't want to clog your deck, obviously, with this, but more often than not, this is not really clogging. This is a good card to play. Stitched Horror, if you can put it on top of your deck, kind of means that for sure you can get the Scarab next round when playing that grafted card, plus whatever else you would want from this agent box. So this is a delayed Scarab, but if you can put it on top of your deck, and you're pretty sure that you have a next round to play it, Stitched Horror sounds like a better deal than Reclaimed Forces, basically. Next is Experimentations. You now get 2 of those experimentation cards instead of Dune the Desert Planet. And this is interesting because it is a good card, actually, unlike Dune the Desert Planet. So you kind of want to play them as often as you can because they give you that little research icon. How do you play them? Well, early smuggling became even more powerful, basically, from the fact that this is obviously bringing you there, so you can play it and get smuggle and maybe get an early Swordmaster. Smuggling became even more powerful. Spice leaders as well, Lido and Handro. Even if you don't have your ring in your first hand, go grab some spice with that because it is a good card to play. So go for it. It's definitely advisable. The other way of playing them obviously would be to graft them. That's also where maybe grafting a card to an experimentation is very useful, because you can combine those effects. So if I go back 2 slides, if we for instance graft Bennett Tleilax Researcher that has a research icon with experimentation, you can go either to a green or a yellow spot and you get 2 research icons. So if I go back to this quickly, you could move by 2 already. If you are at the start, you would get up to here, for instance. If you were already here, you could move up to here, thanks to the additional research icon from that. And this makes it even more likely than you actually might be able to reach the end of the track for some additional scarabs, and then maybe getting that second VP is not completely out of question. Let me go back to this. Yeah, I think we're actually done on this slide. Basically, if you can play those experimentations, they can be very, very useful. They also reveal for a specimen, so worst case, it's not completely lost. You still get to gather some of those specimens, maybe to reclaim for a scarab, maybe to buy a Gola or something interesting in the row. Last but not least would be the family atomics that you can find next to your leader. Here is a token that you can use once a game that allows you to completely wipe out the Imperium Row. All 5 cards are trashed and they are replaced with 5 new cards from the Imperium Row. There are new cards from Immortality in that Imperium deck. So especially those 2, very, very powerful. Those 2 would be the absolute busted cards from the expansion. Tleilaxu Master and Tleilaxu Surgeon. Master because for the reveal, very, very useful. And endgame, you might even be able to use it once for its Asian box, but to try to reach the end of the research track with it, it's very, very useful. Even if you reach the research track, actually, when you reveal it, those icons transform into draw, right, when you reach the end of the track. So you reveal, and you can draw an additional 2 cards to maybe get a Spice Must Flow thanks to the additional persuasion you might be revealing thanks to those draws. And Tleilax Surgeon, very, very powerful to actually convert specimens into scarabs. So if you have this card, don't buy anything from the Tleilaxu Row. Keep your specimens, at least 2, to make sure that when you see that card, you can convert them into scarabs. The one thing I would say then about family atomics is don't use the family atomics when you have less than 5 persuasion, because then it's kind of hopeful. There are a lot of very good cards at 5 persuasion. Tleilax Master is one, but I mean Stilgar, Chani, Power Play, Esmatwek. There are so many good cards at 5, and ideally you would like to even nuke with 6 persuasion, because there are also very good 6 cards, right? Gurney, Treachery, Revan Mother, and so on. But 5 is a more reasonable target that you can achieve quite easily early as well, and it might still be worth it. The other thing is, don't hesitate to use the family atomics to deny opponents. If you just bought a card and it reveals a Tleilaxu Master or a Surgeon, and it's still quite early in the game, because let's be honest, I mean, if it's round 6, might not get so much value out of it. I mean, Tleilax Surgeon maybe though, if he can reshuffle it and get those 2 beaters, might be worth it. Tleilax Master maybe a bit less. In that case, maybe you can consider keeping it, or although it's already round 6, why not just nuke it, because you won't need the family atomics much longer. It's already almost end of the game. But basically, if it's not to serve yourself, don't hesitate to deny opponents those S tier cards, because they can be very painful to play against. So yeah, that would be it for this episode 7 of Spice for Thought, where we had a look at Immortality in more detail. If you enjoyed that, please hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you have any more suggestions in terms of ideas for future episodes, or if you have any comments on what I've been saying. All right, hope to see you very soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.